There are 1,000,000 ways to die. We just wanna talk about it. Codeheads.
Well, welcome to Codeheads. Here we are. And it's Mike and I back, the self-proclaimed resuscitation nerds, aka the Codeheads. And we wanted to have an episode here where we are just kind of reacting to the 2025 ECC guidelines that have just come out for resuscitation. And I know that it was such a hot topic that some of the interwebs went down because people were waiting for them to go live and looking at them. And there have been some initial reactions we've seen, and heard about, but we wanted to just give our reactions to our maybe top five-ish for each of us, thoughts and feelings on various topics that we read about that really have hit home. And then we're gonna deep dive in the upcoming episodes.
Yeah, we'll deep dive on each topic. And to say the least, the immediate reaction last week when the guidelines were revealed on Wednesday, I mean, they were visceral to say the least, and almost truculent, if you will, because people were just almost fuming. And as we spoke earlier in the week, and I said, I'm almost glad we didn't release the pod last week because I might have been by nature, more reactive to what was released without enough knowledge base yet to really have a thoughtful insight. So that we waited.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Mike and I have talked, I feel like ad nauseum about these things. But let's head into it because there's so much, obviously.
So much.
It's
so
thick,
rich,
it's dense, it always is. That's what she
Yes.
said. But there's a lot to go into this.
Yeah.
So I will say that my biggest bear bug, if you will, which I believe is a British way of saying my biggest irritation, is the guideline verbiage related to mechanical CPR.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to throw that out there as my top.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a couple tops, but that's one of my tops. I think that whilst the research shows that we're never going to have a randomized control trial. We can't do that. We can't knowingly allow someone to have poor manual CPR while there's a machine next to them, with someone also in sudden cardiac arrest doing it, perfectly, and just sit there and watch and see what happens for the outcome. It's unethical. It's never going to happen, right? So the research is always going to be up for bias and for discussion, and there's always going to be confounding factors. What I will say, though, is that every single study that has been done has shown that manual CPR is no better than, mechanical CPR, as long as it's high quality CPR, meaning that there is you're watching the end tidal CO2 and that's what's driving your compressions. There is someone coaching and constantly watching and giving feedback, making sure we're hitting all of those marks. And how often does that actually happen?
Exactly.
Pre-hospital, it's two people and you're doing the best you can.
Yeah. Just to step back a second. So again, what I often have to remind myself, and often to the learners too, if they don't, appreciate what I'm, offering them for instruction, is these are AHA guidelines, not mandates.
Right.
So it's really important to remember that. So mechanical CPR, obviously we're going to have one, maybe two, myriad episodes dedicated to it.
I have to moonwalk.
And just like you said, interruption of compressions is really, it can't be overstressed, it's just something that really takes away from the potential for resuscitation and a good neurological outcome. And just for an example, as an EMS provider, when we go up 5 flights of stairs in an apartment without an elevator and we're extricating someone going down a steep stairwell, it is virtually impossible and terribly unsafe to do compressions when the patient is on a spine board. I'm walking backwards. So in that particular case, I don't know how you could argue against mechanical CPR because it could be a solid, literally minutes and minutes, like we're not getting adequate compressions. So there you have it. I challenge anyone to tell me how I'm supposed to compress a patient going down a stairwell, which is very dangerous. without compressions, and then I could have compressions. I could have them if I have
Mhm.
mechanical CPR on board. So I just wanted to cite that as one time where I don't see how it could be challenged.
No, I agree. And I think there was something in there about, during transport or extended transports, but
Yes.
I just don't like the verbiage because I
No.
feel like a lot of people are going to read it and say, "Oh, well, mechanical CPR is we're not using it then."
Right.
Out.
Right.
It's not it's bad, so we're not using it. And
It's
that's
not in vogue anymore. We don't do that now.
right. And that's not really it because there's so much more to it. There's the mental load that it takes off. And, again, we're going to do a deep
Yes.
dive and get into all the benefits of mechanical CPR. But there's stuff you need to do to be prepared and to train and to like use it. It's not like, oh, cool. Now I have this device and like, great. I'm going to push the button. It's going to go. Like, you do have
Right.
to train just like anything else.
A lot of training. That's one of the big ones, and people they're not familiar with it, so they waste time, tick, 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 tick,
Right.
trying to put on the device. They put it on incorrectly. The suction's too low, the cup, the piston. We'll
Right.
break it down later, but so
Yeah.
much is involved. So much is involved. Really fascinating topic, and I do
So
look forward to
that is
get
bear bug number one.
okay.
I'll let you hit number 2. What do you
Let me
have
just
for
peruse really quickly. I think DSED,
that
double
was my number
sequential
2.
external defibrillation, has probably been the second hottest topic that I've
Yep.
noticed on LinkedIn. It's elicited almost as much response as mechanical CPR, but so many people were profoundly disappointed that DSAD didn't get more credit, so to speak, for its efficacy.
Yep.
And I can understand the reasoning why from the AHA standpoint, and I could understand the other side of it where people are just like, we need to be doing this. We need to be doing this. There's a study, there's, dose v fib trial, which we'll break down as well, that if you read that, the immediate reaction is, wow, let's start doing this immediately, which, you have to be measured with what data is presented to you and in which way. However, I'm very intrigued by DSED. I do think it's going to be more prominent, but I'm a big fan. Okay. It's my opinion, and I'm going to reveal my opinion on this show.
I think we might
Whether
know.
it's right or wrong, that's how I
And
roll.
and I
But
know that it was seen as like, initially like, no, don't do it. Back in 2020, it wasn't even, and
right,
now but that's how we change. That's how we progress healthcare and medicine. And we try things and we think out of the box and we're innovative, because years ago, mechanical CPR would have been like, oh, and DSED would have been, oh my gosh, no.
right.
But, you know, the fact that they're kind of the way I read the statements, and again, we're gonna get into the whole podcast on this, but that it's, not routine, it doesn't feel good to me because, it could save a lot of lives.
Oh, right.
Those like non-responsive shocks
After,
could
after 3 attempts, we're dealing with a refractory VFib. All right, I would elect, if I could choose, I'm in that position, give it to me. I don't understand why we wouldn't try it at that point. We're getting deep into the code now. Nothing is working. Why?
especially because, I believe it was in the 2020 and it might have been in the 2015, but there was an update where they, you know, it was encouraged that we, dependent upon where you worked and protocols, that you didn't have to go from, you didn't have to go up in joules. You could start at the max joules, like
Right.
360, if you have devices that do that. And so everywhere I've worked, and that has been my practice. That so if we're already starting and hitting with 360 and we're in a refractory
Yeah.
VF,
We can't
why not like give more?
dial it up.
Because we all know that the only thing that's going to save somebody in a shockable rhythm is electricity. Like,
Right. So 360
compressions
joule.
help to save that brain, but
Right.
our compressions are not getting them out of that rhythm. They
Yeah.
need
And that's really an astute point. If we're delivering 360 joules on the first shock, and it's been now 3 shocks at 360, it is just, to me, a natural.
it's blowing into a hurricane
Right. Let's be like, hey, this isn't working, and the dial doesn't go past
and
360.
being surprised.
Let's get this monitor a friend and just stack the shocks.
Right.
And I find it so promising, and it is hard for me to accept that it didn't get a little more again, they're the guidelines. I have to look more into it. However, I just wish it got a little more accolades,
Emphasis.
more,
Yeah, I agree.
just for
Yeah,
lack of a
I agree.
better
No, I
term.
agree with you 100%. Yeah, I just think that zapping the heart from 2 different angles, in a row
Seriously,
could save lives. And I think that the studies that are out there that have been done in EMS, and there's so many of us, and for all of these different things that they've made changes on, or not really put a lot of emphasis on in these guidelines, which we may be doing as clinicians, and we're still innovating and pushing the bar for a lot of things, for mechanical CPR, for DSED, for other things, that we're not necessarily done, like, because it hasn't been published as a large study, because we're doing, um, is it's kind of disheartening, because
disheartening. Yes,
it's there's so many. I know that there's so many places, and if you work at an academic medical center, there's always people that are, like, trying to gather the data, and and pull it together and get it published, and but there's so many places that don't have those resources, and they're just doing it. They're doing the stuff,
right,
and they're
right.
saving the lives, and because it hasn't been published, it's not being absorbed or appreciated as
Yes,
something that can be life-saving and that we can share. And that's, because a lot of people, even though you're right, these guidelines are not, the Bible, the Quran, whatever you use, the they are just guidelines, but so many people use them as,
absolutely.
this is it. This is my North Star.
Yes.
And that's why I feel like, I know that they have large groups and a lot of people are talking and working on things, but I just wish there was the way the words are used are a little bit different. A little bit more inclusive of, you're already doing this, it's working, you've seen outcomes, and you've seen benefits.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Keep going. And it if it so and you bring up a good point, like, people are, these guidelines are followed. These algorithms are stamped in people's minds. So if you follow an algorithm, say for cardiac arrest, if you see on that algorithm written out, like DSED after 3 unsuccessful shocks at 360, for example, then that would be written. And I think obviously then it would be performed. This is sort of now a deviation. It is a deviation from the algorithm if we're talking the strict pathway of each algorithm.
And then people have to create their own protocols, which makes people feel uncomfortable, because it feels like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm doing this on my own and it's outside of the
Rogue.
guidelines. Whereas
Yeah.
there are protocols that are in place, that places that are using it. And but that's kind of, not to go on a tangent, but kind of why we created Codeheads, is so that we can create a community where people can share information and talk about what they're doing, and and be a place where, if somebody's interested in we can get you in touch with some of the people that are using those protocols, and so that you don't feel like you're drowning in, a sea of, like, shoot, I wish I was doing this stuff, but I don't
Right.
know how to get there. Uh,
Again, we'll break this down further, but one
yeah.
thing I wanted to mention, which you reminded me of, is one aspect of DSED that I really appreciate is if you have interior lateral pad placement and you also have interior posterior, we're covering, vector change. We have both.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So it's just another aspect to me we're getting this too. We're really throwing everything at the patient after, 3 unsuccessful shocks. Come on.
I
Like,
know. It's like, get it
let's just,
moving.
this is a code. They are pulseless. Like, let's ramp this up.
I agree 100%. Um, And just for effective time, I wanted
Oh,
to end I believe it was one of our earlier podcasts, we talked about ventilation changes, and I did actually like, that they changed the verbiage a bit on that.
really?
This was a bit of a plus.
I did not.
You did not. Wow, we
Well,
are
it
have
depends
our
which
first
part you're citing.
well,
Our first fight.
we are disarray, live and coming at you. But, well, I liked that they got rid of the verbiage of rescue breaths, and that they just focus on breaths if someone, has a pulse, but, with no breathing.
Right.
Um, and that the ventilation verbiage is really reserved for healthcare professionals, like those who are actually going to be using, like, a bag mask valve.
Mhm.
I just think it's that separation that we were talking about for lay people
Yeah.
versus healthcare providers. That's kind of where it just, to make CPR a little bit less intimidating for, you know, for laypersons
Yeah.
for community CPR versus, you know, in hospital. That was the one. That was the one. Yes.
I mean, I concur. I'm always a fan of making things simpler for the lay. Now it's called lay rescuer, by the way.
Oh,
That verbiage is changed. So lay rescuer
much
versus
easier for me.
bystander, because a bystander implies something's going on over there. I'll just stand around and watch, see what happens. So I do like lay rescuer. Breaths, it's simple for me. I'm very fond of the word rescue. It just sounds, like I'm doing something, I'm involved, I'm rescuing this person from death. So that's just
You have your
the
take on.
connotation that I have. So now it's breaths and now it's CPR with breaths. So I can appreciate it. I'll miss rescue. I'll miss it.
Oh, well, it's not RIP. It's not gone forever. You can still say it. But I do think like that stresses people out because like if people didn't have something, if they
Yeah.
didn't have a pocket mask, if they felt like, oh gosh, I can't do rescue breaths. And so I think there was a guilt association with it. But I
Fair enough.
get what you're saying. Well, we'll put our capes. We'll still bring them out.
But as we always state, words matter.
Correct.
With CPR, it's about communication. And if a tweak will enable just one more person, to
Right.
step up, like I'm not a bystander, I'm a lay rescuer, then
Yep.
I won't argue it.
Correct. No, yeah. And obviously, so we were kind of in agreement, just not totally.
Yeah. Sort of.
What was next on your list?
I'm just going through. I mean,
Fire.
choking's very interesting to me. Very, very interesting to me.
Mhm.
I'll just hit that briefly.
Yeah, back blows are all of
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
ILCOR and the Red Cross for adult choking has always been back blows, 5 back blows, 5 abdominal thrusts. Okay. The AHA was solely up to these guidelines, abdominal thrusts alone,
Mhm.
which just always made sense to me, intuitively. Like that's the performance you want to do. I always worry about if you hit him in the shoulder blades, the object could,
Go down.
go further down the trachea. The fact that that's changed, I think I really want to look more into it. Definitely. So I'm just mentioning what they've done. So for those of you that don't know, when someone is choking, an adult's choking, they make the universal sign, we get behind them, abdominal thrusts.
Right.
I'm like, abdominal thrusts. That's it. And we do that until the object emits or they go unresponsive. Now we're going to incorporate back blows and then abdominal thrusts, which is what we've been doing on infants. The HA, that's how we treat infants, an abdominal thrust, but we go treat the back,
Yep.
and then we treat, the front side.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's pretty interesting to me. And again, I just really want to explore.
Because it also, it feels like a lot of movement. You know what I mean? At least
Thinking about it a lot.
I mean, it just seems like a lot of choreography and in the effort of, simplification, it feels like if we're going to teach,
Seriously. Seriously.
community-based classes, it's like, okay, now go around the back and, and now the front. And especially when there's, larger people and
Just
it's
gonna say that.
difficult to get around, but maybe that is why they incorporated it because it's sometimes really difficult to do the abdominal thrust. And so maybe, I don't know.
Well,
Again, that's something
I was thinking-
we need to dive into. But so these are our initial thoughts. Don't think
Right.
we're moronic if you're listening to this.
Well, just one quick addition is it's always important to remember to remind that everything we've spoken about, mechanical CPR, DSED, now choking, everything is situational. It's within the context of the situation before you, the circumstance. I was talking to a mutual friend of ours today. He's an instructor. He's 6'6". I'm not getting to that back for back blows without a step stool, but I can get him good with abdominal thrusts. That's a situation where I'm not going to deploy the AHA guideline.
Right.
There you go.
Right. And that's spot on. And I was actually thinking about that. Like, what do we do? Jump up and whack,
Right. And I don't want people to get stuck in their head. I have to get up there because that's the first thing I'm supposed to do. I can't reach. So I'm going to jump and do it. I'm going to get this
or
stool.
tell the person to bend down. Can you
Climbs on
bend
the- yeah.
down?
Instruct you what to do while you're panicking. So again, it's that to me though. Yeah. I question that, I guess, just because it's so simple to have one thing to do. If you're the lay rescuer, I have one thing to do. And I don't want to get obsessed with the back blows because the clock is ticking, right? And they're going to go unresponsive if I'm not aggressive.
Although I will say in just to be devil's advocate for 2 seconds is that when people are choking, like before, not really choking, when people are choking, they have something, they have something stuck in their throat. They're not actually choking because they do have air movement.
Right.
But someone's like coughing and are you choking? And they're like, yeah, I'm choking, which drives me nuts. You're not really, but people go and they whack them on the back. That's the
Yep.
first move that everyone does. You see, I do it to my kid. I'm like, oh, here
I
you
did it
go.
to my son.
I mean, am I doing
It's just
anything?
the
No.
first thing I think. It's intuitive. Like, get that out.
Yeah.
But again, if someone's, that tall or I just can't get to the back, I just need to remember, all right, just go here. Just do
Yeah.
abdominal steps.
And we wanted to keep this high and tight. And I'm just going to say there's one other thing that is a bit of
Oh,
a bed bug. I know we have so much.
wow.
But my did have one not big concern. I am not in love with the fact that there has been kind of a downgrade of the emphasis on the cardiac arrest centers for transportation of patients. Mike and I talked about this a little bit offline, but one of my big things, and I think for a lot of the research that has been looked at, the last guidelines were kind of pumped out at the end, like in the height of COVID, right?
Yeah.
In 2020. And then now a lot of the research and a lot of the studies are being done in that post-COVID world, which is, we're down. We lost 100,000 nurses, nationally in the US. We are down EMS. I don't even know what the percentage is, and I
Right.
should because I just said one for nursing. And, providers are burnt out. We've lost a ton of physicians. We're losing people left and right. People are burnt out. Practice changes have been rapid fire and fast, and a ton of them based on how, COVID was changing and all sorts of other things, surrounding it, which probably shouldn't have even been an impact, but they are, and I'm not going to talk about it.
Yes.
But it's in the back of my head that we're making guidelines and practice changes based on things now that, I don't know, in this new world that are really,
Environmental.
yes,
Yes.
and how long, I don't know. It feels like, I don't know. I'm not married to the fact that maybe the research would be different if it was just a little bit longer out. And I know they have to make a change, and I know that, they
Right.
have to look what the research is at the time, but it was in a really rapidly changing
Yeah.
world when a
Fluid.
lot of this stuff came out.
Yeah. Right. No. And I agree. I did think about the different eras, so to speak, and the approach might be, not married, but linked to, this different, 2020 and 2025, big difference in this time period for medical care.
100%. And for resuscitation.
That was a wrinkle in time to me, the COVID, like it was just everything changed,
Right.
about how we approach people, how, with the code, we weren't bagging them until respiratory showed up. I mean, everything was different,
And
so
I think that's interesting to keep in the back of our minds. And as Mike and I, we're going to do a second episode on also our initial thoughts.
yeah. And handle it all today. We can't constrict it. So
Yeah,
we're gonna,
we can't. So we're going to have some more thoughts.
that's our hook. That's our hook. So you come back next week.
Yeah, come on back. And we want to get your thoughts as well. So
Totally want your thoughts. We've bloviated enough. Come on, insert comments. Love to hear what people have to say.
yeah, let's go, Codeheads.
Codeheads. Well, happy National First Responders Day.
There are 1,000,000 ways to die. We just wanna talk about it. Call